My name is Ruby. Standing in my newly established office with a view of the bustling city skyline, I can't help but let a smile spread across my face. Months have passed since my life took a drastic turn, and now I'm surrounded by the fruits of justice and hard-earned freedom. My father, Victor Grant, once a prominent figure in the business world as the CEO of Grant Industries, is now behind bars. The news of his arrest in an $18 million fraud scheme was all over the media. Reporters swarmed the driveway when federal agents escorted him out in handcuffs. I still remember the look of disbelief on his face when he saw me step out of the car. "You," he hissed, his voice trembling with rage. "You did this to me." I stood there, calm and composed, my heels clicking on the marble floor he once forbade me to touch.
"No, Dad.
You did this to yourself. I just stopped covering up for you," I replied softly. My journey to this point was not an easy one. I was born into a wealthy family, but the opulence of our mansion couldn't hide the toxicity within. My father was a cold, controlling man who saw parenting as a means to maintain his public image. He always made it clear that I was a disappointment, constantly belittling my achievements. My brother, Marcus, 7 years my senior, often tried to stay out of the crossfire, and my mother, Lily, was a meek woman who seemed to live in a daze created by my father's tyranny. For years, I chased after my father's approval, like a dog after a crumb. Every time I earned a good grade, got a promotion at work, or achieved a new level of independence, he would dismiss it as mere luck. And every mistake, no matter how small, was used as proof of my worthlessness. But one fateful month, my world turned upside down. I was supposed to receive a trust fund from my late grandmother when I turned 30. My mother had always assured me that it would be my ticket to real independence. However, when I checked the account, it was empty. At first, I thought it was a banking error, but a deeper investigation revealed a sinister truth. Every cent of the money my grandmother left me had been rerouted through a dummy account in my father's company. The evidence was right there in black and white: bank transfers, forged signatures, and confidential emails from his accountant. It was clear that my father, the man who constantly told me I was a waste of space, had been living off my grandmother's legacy for years. I knew I couldn't handle this on my own. So, I reached out to a lawyer, a brilliant and tough as nails woman named Ava Reed. She specialized in family financial disputes, and as soon as I told her my story, her voice turned ice cold. "Ruby, we can prove this, but you need to leave that house quietly. Don't confront him until we're ready," she advised. I decided it was time to leave. I packed my life into 2 suitcases and prepared for a dinner that would be my unofficial goodbye. At the dinner table, my father, with his whiskey glass catching the light, said, "Some children bring honor to the family. Others are just a burden." The room fell silent. My mother's eyes pleaded with me not to react, not to ruin another family dinner. I forced a smile. "Lucky for you, I'm moving to a new place 3,000 miles away today. You won't have to deal with me anymore," I said, my voice steady. The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. My father just smirked, satisfied with the chaos he'd created, and took another sip of his drink. As I drove away that night, the Pacific Coast Highway stretched out before me, a symbol of the freedom I was finally grasping. In the passenger seat was a brown leather folder filled with the damning evidence. Ava called me while I was on the road. "Ruby, I've gone through all the documents. What your father did isn't just unethical, it's criminal. Embezzlement, fraud, possible tax evasion. Are you sure you want to proceed?" I stared at the ocean and thought about all the years of humiliation and abuse. "He stole my future," I replied firmly. "He's not going to get away with it." By the time I reached San Francisco, Ava had already filed a motion for a financial audit of Grant Industries. That night, in my tiny studio apartment with peeling paint and a view of the city, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. But peace is often accompanied by ghosts. At 11:43 p.m. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. "You think you're smart, Ruby? You've made a huge mistake. Don't come back," the text read. I recognized the rhythm of rage in the words. It was my father's voice echoing through the text. I turned off my phone, locked my door, and whispered to the empty room, "You can't threaten someone who's already free." 3 days later, the news broke. Grant Industries was under federal investigation for the alleged misuse of family trusts. It was everywhere: financial blogs, local newspapers, and even a spot on the evening news. The photo they used was from a charity event last year, my father smiling beside a governor, holding a glass of expensive wine. That smile now looked so hollow. Ava called again, her tone brisk but pleased. "The auditors froze his personal accounts this morning. The SEC wants full cooperation." "Ruby, you've brought him down," she said. I was speechless. "Already?" I managed to ask.
Yes.
"You did everything right," she replied. I sat there, reflecting on all the years I'd dreamed of justice. It felt quiet, heavy, but also necessary. That night, my mother called. Her voice was trembling. "Ruby, what did you do?" "Your father is furious, and there are reporters outside the house." I took a deep breath. "I didn't do anything wrong, Mom. I just told the truth." She sighed, sounding weary and broken. "You should have warned me." "Warned you? He's been lying to you too," I whispered. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, softly, she said, "He says you'll regret this." I looked out at the city lights and exhaled slowly. He's right, but not for the reason he thinks. Just then, Ava discovered another account. It was a shell company in the Bahamas under a fake consultant's name, Leo Blackwood. "Ruby, this isn't just theft. He's been laundering company funds for almost 10 years, Ava said, her voice filled with disbelief. My stomach turned. 10 years. I repeated. "Yes, which means he's been stealing long before your grandmother passed. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about all the people he's defrauded, his investors, his board, the government," she explained. I stared at the folder on my desk, at my father's signature repeated over and over again. The man who'd shunned me had built his empire on lies. Ava's tone softened. "Ruby, the authorities will need a statement from you directly. You'll be protected, but your name will come out eventually." I hesitated for a moment, but then I knew I had to do it. I'd spent my whole life being silent in that house, watching him control and humiliate everyone around him, all while wearing the mask of a respected businessman. No more. I sat at my kitchen counter that evening, typing out my statement. Every word was like a blade, carving my freedom into stone. When I sent it off, my hands shook, not from fear but from a sense of release. I poured myself a small glass of wine, raised it to the empty room, and whispered, "Here's to taking up space." The fallout was swift. Within 48 hours, Grant Industries went into full-blown crisis mode. The board suspended my father pending investigation, shareholders demanded answers, and federal agents executed a search warrant at our family home. I could only imagine the chaos. The flashing lights on the marble driveway, my father shouting on the porch, and my mother crying on the steps. That house, once a symbol of power, now looked like a prison of his own making. Ava called me from D.C. "It's official. They've filed charges, wire fraud, embezzlement, falsifying documents. He'll be arraigned on Wednesday," she informed me. I exhaled slowly, placing my palm on my chest. "What about Mom?" I asked. "She's listed as a dependent witness, not a target. They know he kept her in the dark," Ava replied. That night, I sat on my balcony, overlooking the San Francisco skyline. I could almost hear my father's voice saying, "You'll never make it without me." But the city below whispered a louder message, "Watch me." Then a text from my brother came in. "You really destroyed him, Ruby. He's talking about disowning you." I typed back a single word. "Good. I'd rather be disowned than be a prisoner in his world." When I went back inside, I noticed an unopened envelope on the counter with my name on it. Ava had overnight new documents. I tore it open and was stunned. Inside was a sealed adoption record, proof of the last secret my father had tried to bury. According to Ava's note clipped to the front, he'd altered my birth certificate when I was 8. I wasn't biologically a Grant, but my grandmother had still named me the sole heir in her original will. It all made sense now. He'd stolen the inheritance out of fear, not just greed. If anyone found out I wasn't his blood, the money, the company's name, and the legacy would all bypass him. The man who'd spent my life telling me I didn't belong had tried to erase the evidence that I was once a part of something. I called Ava immediately. "So, he adopted me to control the will?" I said. "Yes," she confirmed. "And now that we've proven fraud, everything your grandmother left you is yours again. He can't touch a dime." For the first time in a long time, I laughed, not out of joy, but out of disbelief. "He called me useless," I whispered. "And all this time, he needed me to keep his empire alive." Ava asked softly, "Ruby, what do you want to do now?" I looked out at the city lights, flickering like candles in the wind. "Exactly what he fears most. I'm going home," I replied. The day I flew back, the news was everywhere. Grant Industries CEO arrested in an $18 million fraud scheme. Reporters lined the driveway as agents led my father out in handcuffs. The man who once scorned me couldn't even look at the cameras. When he saw me, his face contorted in disbelief. My mother stood behind the door, her face pale, but with a newfound lightness. She didn't rush to defend him this time. Instead, she whispered, "Ruby, thank you." Later that week, in court, I gave my statement. My hands were steady, my voice clear. "My father taught me that worth had to be earned," I said. "But all he ever earned was fear, and fear dies the moment you stop feeding it." The judge nodded, and the gavel struck. Now here I am, in my new office, funded by what my grandmother truly left me. Dad is behind bars, Mom is in therapy, and I've finally claimed the space I was always meant to have.